Well, hello, it's Andrew Doubleday here yet again, and today we've got the Gospel for the 4th of July. Woohoo! And it's Mark chapter 6, verses 1 through to 13. Jesus left that place and came to his hometown, and his disciples followed him. On the Sabbath he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astounded. They said, "Where did this man get all this? What is this wisdom that has been given to him? What deeds of power have been done by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offence at him. Then Jesus said to them, "Prophets are not without honour, except in their hometown, among their own kin and in their own house." And he could do no deed of power there, except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and cured them. And he was amazed at their unbelief. Then he went about among the villages teaching. He called the 12 and began to send them out 2 by 2, and gave them authority over the unclean spirits. He ordered them to take nothing for their journey except a staff, no bread, no bag, no money in their belts, but to wear sandals and not to put on 2 tunics. He said to them, "Wherever you enter a house, stay there until you leave the place. If any place will not welcome you and they refuse to hear you, as you leave, shake the dust off your feet as a testimony against them." So they went out and proclaimed that all should repent. They cast out many demons and anointed with oil many who were sick, and cured them. Going back is not always a good idea. My first parish appointment was in Wanganui. We were there for 5 years. At the end of 4 years we knew that we'd be moving on. And Lynn and I and the boys, we went to Dunedin for a holiday at the end of that year. There was a possibility of an appointment in Dunedin, so we thought we'd just check it out. We'd been away all told from Dunedin for 8 years. And we had a wonderful week. Well, it was for Lynn and I as we went down memory lane and drove all of Dunedin and looked out the old haunts and visited all the sites. The boys didn't enjoy it quite so much. And we thought, yeah, it's okay. Until on that last day, Lynn made an observation. She said, "Wouldn't it be awful if we came back here and after 6 months, it was like we'd never been away?" That was it. That was the end of that dream. I realised the danger that she was pointing to. The danger of slipping back into all our old roles and ways of being and ways of thinking, that so much had happened in the previous 8 years. We didn't want to slip back into all the old patterns that we'd left behind. So we never returned to Dunedin. We didn't go back. I love Dunedin. It's a place to visit. I'm always surprised at how well it's moved on without us, but there you have it. We never went back. And so it's not surprising really that Jesus was dismissed by those he grew up with. Even the most remarkable people are often not recognised at home, unless of course they die suddenly or in tragic circumstances, and then suddenly the biggest ratbag becomes a saint. Anyway, that's another issue. And part of the thing is that we saw them grow up. We knew them. And there was nothing particularly special about them. They were just pretty much like everybody else. Oh yeah, they had some peculiar attributes, but they were just one of us. They were, just nothing extraordinary. And so they took offence at Jesus. Who does he think he is? Surely some things had changed, but we know where he comes from. Surely. Come on. Tragically, this is how human nature works. we tend to lock others in as we knew them back then, whatever that was like back then. So Jesus, good, his healing, his transformative deeds are stymied by a lack of faith. Now, I'm not quite sure what that means. I'm not sure whether it means that the things that he could have done didn't work because the people refused to believe they could, or that people refused to allow Jesus to work his magic, work his healing grace, his transformative love on them. If you're going to lay hands on somebody, for example, you've got to have their permission first. And maybe it's just that the people think, oh, that's just Jesus. And so they never came for what he could offer. So it's said that he could do very few works of power there, and healed only a few people on whom he was able to lay hands. I want us to notice, though, that Jesus is not paralyzed by the rejection that he receives from those people he'd grown up with, but he actually moves on. I mean, I've heard it said that what other people think of me is none of my business. And I'm really grateful for the most part that I don't know what other people think of me, because I suspect a lot of it would not be good, and it may well cripple me. Having said that, it is in fact none of my business. And so there's an encouragement, as Jesus does, to be able simply to move on and say, okay, there's nothing I can do for them if they do not want to receive. So we'll go to those for whom something can be done. Jesus is not wasting his energy on those who obdurately are not going to receive anything from him. And perhaps the reason that so many of us struggle, so many of us seem to be stymied and never rise to all we could be or to do all we could do, is because we worry too much about what other people think of us. I know it's been an issue for me. I like to be liked, and I know that I can be quite difficult, and people can find me quite offensive. Actually, it's not my intention to be either of those. Sometimes I just can't help myself. But I like to be liked, and I think it's true of many of us. We like the approval of others. The difficulty is that when that stops us from doing the things that we're called to do, we're doing the things that we could do that could actually potentially make a difference. And here in the case of Jesus, it's because people think he's getting uppity and getting above himself. So he's not only moving forward, though, we discover, with or without the approval of others, he's also expanding his own ministry. He figures that the disciples have been with him long enough, have observed his processes, his ways of looking at people and of connecting with them, his technique, and have served a sufficient apprenticeship to be released into doing a little field work, a short-term missions trip, if you will, and he sends them off with some clear instructions as to how they go about it. And it's like he cuts all the props from under them. He says, I want you to go and I want you to trust. I want you to trust that you're not alone. I want you to trust that the Spirit of God is with you and is going to carry you and to equip you and to empower you and to give you all that you need to do the job. I want you to trust. So I'm taking all the things away that you think are going to make you feel safe and allow you just to go and experience what can happen when you open yourselves, make yourselves vulnerable, and trust in the Spirit of God. And so Jesus expands his own ministry by commissioning the disciples to do what he was doing. Isn't this a great model of leadership? Not needing to micromanage and control others, but allowing them to potentially grow beyond ourselves, to be able to do more in some areas than we could do, because there's always people who can do some things better than we can. ultimately there's always somebody who can do everything better than we can. And to, rather than feel defensive or jealous, to be able to release them into whatever it is that God's calling them to. Anyway, that's it for today. God bless you.